this. So it's my pleasure to continue discussing with other speakers because now I think that we have to speak about talent. So we have been speaking about financing, what is the EIT, what we are doing, what is innovation. We have shown some experiences from the partners that we have in the South, but now it's the moment to speak about the people, the skills, and the talent that we have. So for me, it's an honor to have here with me Jean-François Trubert, which is the president of MIN4CI, one of the core partners of the EIT Culture and Creativity in Southwest. And I think that a person who represents the soul because he plays music, so literally. So thank you, Jean-François.
Good evening, all. Thank you very much. And I am very pleased to be here, and I want to thank you, Aurea, very, very much for a welcome. And thank you also the KIC and all the members, Bernd, Ariam, and Jabin, for this inspiring movement and the fact we are here at the Creativity Days. I'm representing the MIN4CI Foundation, which is a Mediterranean Innovative Narratives for Competence Center for Cultural and Creative Industries, and we are a group of 3 universities, Aix-Marseille universities, Avignon universities, and Université Côte d'Azur, and also a territory, the region Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur, the South region, and we are dedicated to structuring the CCSI and animated the sector at the regional, national, and European level now, as we are founding members of the KIC and part of the C&C Southwest. I'm very pleased to welcome my 2 partners in crime for this last session. Malika Touddimte, who is also a member of MIN4CI. She's based in Marseille, works as a CCSI project manager at Université Aix-Marseille. And she coordinates with us and she animates the strategic topic group of the KIC, Innovative Narrative for Territorial Development. Welcome, Malika. And I welcome also André Forte, who is head of business development and arts at University of Porto Technical department. He supports entrepreneurs, startups, and artists, and also is a communication expert and is animated the sector and the artists and the students to develop the startups. So we are very pleased to be here with you. We will try to animate a debate with you also and to make this vivid because it's the end of the day, so we want to give you some of our energy because we are academics here and we are on the field with the students. We want them to be part of the the adventure, and our duty is to launch them into the field of the workplace, and it's not an easy task, and we are trying to do so inside the perimeter of our academics. And also today we want to present you some initiative because we as academics we have also a perimeter that is moving. So the boundaries of our traditional perimeter is now moving. We have impact on our territory. We have impacts on the sociologic and the economic developments of our territory. And we want to share with you this kind of experiences we have because we are really at the core of the knowledge triangle and the link between the curriculum, the courses, the way we are thinking about the courses by interacting with the different actors, the companies, the people who are in charge with the diplomas. So we are all around the table and say, okay, what are the skills today? What do we need to develop these skills, and what are you thinking you need as a corporation, as a company, that we can develop in our academics, in our universities. And then we are inventing, this is a creativity day, and it's really the case, we are inventing new diplomas, new forms of curriculums, the learning by doing, the project-based curriculum, the inverted classrooms. And also, with Malika and André, we are thinking about how we can lead the students, the people, to drive and then into the entrepreneurship world, and also how we can transfer some research program, some very fundamental research, into the innovation, into the startups, into the real world, as we can say. So maybe we can sit after this presentation. And we want to share about, now we have programs about startup acceleration program, fostering creativity, and maybe we can share the experiences we have, Malika with the SDG, but in your institution and our institutions too, and André about this startup program, and maybe we can share about that. So how do you think and help about the fostering the creativity? And as a representative for the university, can you describe some excerpts from these startup acceleration programs you are driving, for an example?
You want to start?
Maybe just by a question, is there anyone here who doesn't know what is a strategic topic group? Everyone? I'll try, and you correct me if there is a... So it's an initiative by the EIT, so you have the action programs who, among other things, write the call for proposals, and you also have think tanks that are to become act tanks, and that are called strategic topic groups. So you have 13 of them, because 2 became flagship initiatives, and you have 13 themes that were proposed by EIT members that we think are crucial, that we think about collectively, and we come up with solutions. So Min4CI is the chair of strategic topic group, STG, so I will refer to STG now, called New Narratives for Territories. And this STG was created from one idea, is that here we are all from different parts of Europe, and we talk about different issues and solutions that can be replicated in our different contexts. But we have to think about our territorial specificities. How do you take this in account? What is the goal of creating, having a reappropriation, reaffirmation of your territorial narratives, and what does it do? It is a wonderful leverage for territories to have stakeholders, and I'm talking about inhabitants, institutions, universities, companies that share a same collective narrative, and that we see that sometimes it can foster also synergies on a specific topic. Let's take an example with the Olympics coming up in Paris. It builds a new narratives for the city, for the country, and it can create new association between the private and the public sectors, universities, etc. So we are just starting, and we are very happy because Eureket is one of the members of this STG, but there is also Fora dels Baus. Fran did, a presentation this morning, Collective Up, I saw Paul Fenton somewhere, and we have members from 10 countries in Europe, and we work as a collective and learning organization, which means we start from the beginning, saying, okay, new narratives for territories, what does it mean? So we are working on a collective glossary, we're working on a manifesto, what we want to achieve, what are our purpose, and here is about putting the society and the values about social cohesion at the center of our work. So we are thinking for now about collecting relevant examples from our members, because again, our territories are very, very different. I am from the south of France with Jean-François. You could have like different examples from your city. Aurea brings something else. You have people in Germany that bring something else. And from this study, we want to come up with different actions, being incubation modules, for example. How could you teach stakeholders that want to create narrative, that want to reaffirm, that want to regenerate their territory? What tools can they have? What leverage can they use? And at the center of our reflection is also the notion of innovation. And maybe we want to help some existing startup, but also projects, ideas. This is what it's about, and the stakeholders we are targeting are very different. It could be students. Jean-François said it. We work for universities, so of course we are in touch with this part of the society, and we question innovation. What is innovation? How do you make responsible innovation? Innovation is sometimes tech. We will talk further about this, but sometimes it's also going back to old ways and experiment them in a new way. So that was a very long introduction.
Yeah. Thank you, Malika. To summary, we have two main goals. The first is to share with people, and the second is to learn from the people. And I think these two goals, we can find them also in your action, André, to share and to learn and to manage people and to support them and to animate the network in the way they can construct and have the goal to go with towards the path of entrepreneurial and entrepreneurship.
Yes, that's exactly true. At UPTEC and with the University of Oporto, we are lucky enough not to only work with artists, but we also have people from the tech sector, from the science sector. So it gives us an obvious advantage in terms of what we can do with all this talent and also connecting with the university. So obviously we have our own acceleration program for ideas, that we pick up on ideas and we accelerate them until they are MVPs. And we do it for art, science, and technology. But at the same time, we need to think a little bit on the students and on these entrepreneurial skills. And thinking a little bit of what was said in the morning, that usually artists are also managers and so forth. And frankly, I don't see that as problematic because in general, obviously when you grow and you scale up to become a big corporation, you need to have your silos and things need to work. But when you are starting up in general, startups are comprised of 3 people. You know, you have the clown to put on stage, you have the developer, obviously the engineer, and then you have the designer, the creative, who brings empathy into the table and makes it a viable product that can reach society and the market. And these 3 people usually need to do everything, you know, in the company. They need to manage, they need to think of the product and so forth. So this is something that we try to convey to the students. We have a specific program for the fine arts faculty where we just kind of teach at least our brand of entrepreneurship, which is and frankly it's not that far from what you are doing. Let's find a challenge or a problem in society and let's try to come up with solutions for this. As crazy as they might be, let's think collectively on how we can improve people. And in general, that's what we believe entrepreneurship should be all about. You know, it's not about revenue. It's not about creating solutions for problems that don't exist. It's about impact in general. You know, it's about finding meaningful solutions to bring value, to add value to communities. And well, when you can do that, you probably have a good company and a good recipe for success. So we do this program in partnership with the Fine Arts faculty, where we just bring 7 challenges to the students with the utopian goal of making the city of Porto, the citizens of Porto, the happiest by 2028. Which is, well, we dream big and fail even bigger, you know. But we try to make them address specific challenges on mobility, on how single people should relate to the city, on how silence can shift our experience of a city, on inclusivity. So this kind of things. And now that you have the problems, let's come up with solutions. let's develop a possible product, an MVP about this, and then let's figure out if this is viable, you know? Can we make a business out of this? And maybe this is not a business, maybe this is an association, non-profit, you know, but trying to make them think creatively about what entrepreneurship should be, and that it's not all revenue and it's not all business talk, you know. You can be an entrepreneur and not wear a suit. You can just, well, think about myself, you know.
Okay, I don't take it personally.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but that's the thing. You can do this and still be a creative person and still have a viable product, a viable service, or even if something that maybe falls in between, something that adds value to a community. And it's the most important idea of our acceleration programs, in my opinion. Yeah.
That's nice. So Porto is the first step to make Europe happy again. That's right.
Well, fingers crossed. We've been trying for 4 years. No complaints so far, but also not that many results. So let's see. We have companies that have been created through this by the students, which is nice. You know, I think that's the goal.
That's very interesting because as we are hearing that, so there's a link between the external companies and the students inside. So they are sharing projects. So
yeah.
do they accept projects from external companies, for an example?
Yeah. So this project specifically is done in partnership with a scale-up that we have incubated in UPTEC. It's everything, and they are an engineering and design company, and they're the ones who came up with the challenges. So that is in partnership with them. They are mentors, and then we invite more companies from UPTEC to do mentorship for the students so they can have direct contact with them. So it's a kind of a mixed program. But we try to be this kind of bridge between the companies that we are incubating and the university. So we try not only to incubate projects that came up in the university, but also make sure that they have access to talent from the university, and at the same time that there's other types of collaborations with postgraduate programs and masters and so forth.
Yeah. And maybe Malika on our side, we can share about this kind of experiences we also have in some similar modalities, in fact. The way we are having entrepreneurship and the students in contact with the companies in some program we have with the incubation, for example.
We have to. You want to say a few words about Fiction, for example?
For an example, or even a program for Aix-Marseille University or University Côte d'Azur, we can share.
Yeah, and the idea here is to say that entrepreneurship doesn't begin only after you finish your studies. It can also happen during your studies, and our universities have like a special focus on this, and there is a entire program dedicated to support entrepreneurship among students. It works very well. You have, for example, programs like Pépite that gives a stipend, that gives mentorship to students. And I think that we attend a change in the paradigm also of how do you envision your career. I mean, you can choose one or you can make one, and I think a lot of the students choose to make one at first. And it's very good that they can do this with the safety of being within their universities, which means also having access to funds and take very limited risks.
Yeah, the fact that today we are still at the core as academics with two mainstream of our action, which is the education programs and the research programs. So we are still obviously doing these two main core actions. But the fact is, these core actions now are, are going into the society. So when we were talking about a university a few years ago, we often, especially in the humanities, say about us that it was very isolated or in silo. We are talking about that this morning. We are really in silo for our disciplines in the academics world. So it's not really the case today. So today we still have this core program that now we can incubate startup in a research center, in a laboratory. Yeah. And then this startup can turn to a junior enterprise, for an example. So it's an enterprise in the university, but every year the students are moving and changing, but the enterprise remains. and she offers services to the external world, for example. So it creates interactions with the people. And also, the thing that is interesting today, we are hearing a lot about artificial intelligence today, about the way artificial intelligence is spreading and is doing the accelerating the workflow. For example, it is interesting to see that the humanities, a lot of disciplines can be involved in this new kind of program of research and of startup. As an example, we had inside MinForCI, let's say, a program of accelerating startup that creates postdoctoral position for a very fundamental research in humanities in musicology, and to work with a startup that develop an artificial intelligence music composition application, and that allows to create employment in a field that usually you couldn't imagine that could work in that way. So this is one of the samples we can also take as a next step to speak about the use of the technology and the importance of the technologies today when we are talking about startups. And maybe we can also have this insight inside maybe the STG, but other programs, and also in the incubation program for startups. Sure. André?
Should I start? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe a disclaimer. When we talk about AI in general, I mean, that has been addressed in this room before, but I feel like in general we don't acknowledge how important artists are for the current models that we have been using, you know. The OpenAI models rely a lot on artists, mostly DALL-E, you know, and we don't really know what's the data set behind ChatGPT, but we're talking about humongous amounts of books, you know. So in general, I do think that it's really important that artists, initiatives such as Have I Been Trained from Holly Herndon are really important moving forward with these models, because AI, for once, is not that new. You know, we've been using AI since the 50s. The difference now is that it became a product, and we've been able to use it as a product. And at the same time, we need to consider how to involve the artists, and that the first thing that comes to mind to me is to make them part of the process of developing these technologies from scratch. You know, this is a really important step. But it's one that us at UPTEC are just now taking at the same time. You know, there's actually engineers working in the university developing these types of solutions. But when it comes to crossing them with artists, that's when the challenge becomes really big, and that's where UPTEC, I believe, has the chance to do this, because we do have startups who are hacking AI, and we do have artists. So the first thing that we're trying to do is to create a common language between them, you know, so making sure that the artists understand how an AI model works, how important is the data set, and how important are they to create these data sets, and that they can also develop them themselves, you know, that they can understand how to do data labeling and all that, and start using AI, for instance, you know. And this doesn't need to be all about AI. It's really agnostic for all technologies. That's the thing about technology. They are agnostic, you know. We can use them as we like. It's just we need to know how to understand them, you know. So I feel that the first step, and that's the one we've been trying to take at UPTEC, is to make sure that there's a common language and that people understand how they can use this for artistic purposes or for product service purposes. Both, I feel, are really important.
And would you say there is a trend for transverse application or interdisciplinarity, for an example?
Oh, for sure. And in Europe, there's already been strides to make that work. There's a lot of efforts around cross-innovation that try to make artists more, well, they try to take artists to different contexts where in general they wouldn't just be there, you know. I know that Scania hired a pianist that's an expert on improvisation, to kind of work with their production line, which, as you know, a car has 3-4 different variants that you can do. When you are doing a big truck, you need to adapt it to the person who's driving it. So there's a lot of improvisation going into this. So thinking about, let's bring an artist who knows how to improvise to help us think about this. It's obviously a huge step, you know, it can go wrong, but at the same time, it will bring not only the artists out of the comfort zone, which is what happens the most, but also the engineers and everybody that's involved in this production line to do the same, to take them out of their comfort zone, think otherwise about what they're doing, and maybe create new meaningful solutions.
It's interesting because it's an exchange of knowledge at the end. And this exchange of knowledge, I think, Malika, I pretend I don't know you, so I ask you a question.
Hello, Jean-François.
Hello, Malika. And this exchange of knowledge is something that we can find also in this experience of social networks in territorial development, when people from different organizations, associations, they are regrouping in the goal of having an action together, but from different fields.
Yeah, and I think I really liked what was said in the panel before by Hannibal from Media Group, that you have to understand what is a tool and what is the output. And I think AI, like many different tech, are tools to achieve whatever you like, actually. And this, for example, in our case, with Min4CI, with the SCG, this is the idea, to bring stakeholders that are very diverse and to talk the same language, saying that this is a tool, and here you can use it to regenerate your territory again, or to create your own version of culture and creativity right here in this very same context. It's, again, understanding what is a tool, and I think maybe this is something that it's at the base of the friction between artists and the business world, let's say it in very general and broad terms, is that you have to understand again that it's a leverage to achieve something you want. And when you see the outputs, maybe you don't agree on the outputs, and then you don't go in this way. But it's not a reason to throw the tool. Yeah. And I think this is what we are trying to do.
Yeah, and to add more what we said, maybe it's also a question of skills. I mean, we need today to be aware about new skills that appear, and also to adapt and to set actions depending on this kind of skills that are arising. And I think this is one kind of actions we can have in our partnership with the core of universities we are making in south of France. But I think also it's some of the actions and the thoughts you have in Porto about the way you're managing the students about the skills that they can have.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the university, I cannot talk much about the university being the person of the science and technology park. I know that the university is making huge efforts in terms of updating the curricula to make sure that it matches this. What we are doing at UPTEC is making sure that this cross-innovation efforts, not only for students, but also for corporations and so forth, is something that's possible, you know. So we always try to have this, let's find challenges, let's try to have answers for these challenges, and let's look at what we have agnostically. So we don't only look in the tech sector, we don't only look in the science sectors, we also look into artistic sectors to come up with these solutions. And having this type of mindset, I think it's important because it allows us to, again, think of the tool and how the tool can be used, and not just focus on having it just as a product that should only work for this or can only be sold this way and so forth. In general, I feel that we've been missing a lot of great opportunities with technologies as creatives as well, maybe to create just intangible things, but these intangible things are usually disruptive and allows us to think a little bit further and to consider new possibilities. One great example of that is the blockchain. You know, it just became something about cryptocurrencies, and people don't really use it as a possibility for artistic creation.
Absolutely.
And it does have that possibility.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. But more about the hard skills, and the thing that interesting in our programs is also we are trying to develop the soft skills with the students. So it's what you said about the entrepreneurship program, for an example.
Yeah.
And so we are taking students and trying to make them work together, being a team, and develop the learning by doing, develop the projects. And in this kind of program, we are leading them progressively into this entrepreneurship spirit, as you said, Malika, from the end of the curriculum, not especially when they are outside. And so comparing your experiences, so have you some example of students that have managed to invent their own startup and becoming grow enough to have a success in this field, for example?
Yeah, I mean, in the artistic fields or the creative fields, we have one example that I found really interesting, which is Summary. It's an architecture, and well, Porto's university is really is renowned for its university faculty. So, well, I had to go to architecture. And we have Summary, as I was saying, from Samuel Gonçalves. He went through our program, our School of Startups program, to maybe come up with a solution in terms of what he could do with architecture. And he created a modular solution for doing fast architecture that is also sustainable, which is interesting. And more recently, we had some researchers who were working with crafts and mapping the crafts of northern Portugal, and they were thinking about how they could create a possible company or a service to not only empower them as craftspeople as they are, but also to empower other craftspeople who were doing, who are working with clay, who are doing sculpture and that kind of thing. But it's not exactly art, it's not exactly design, it's something in the middle, you know. So there's this kind of gray area that they need to kind of understand, which is the object of their study. And with our program, they kind of felt that the first thing was these soft skills about understanding what they are offering, what is the solution that they need to solve, again, always thinking about impact, and then to understand how it could scale up to provide services for other larger institutions. And currently they have their own organization where they are mapping out, because there was no information about how many craftsmen there were in Portugal, what they were doing, the type of traditions that they were using. So they are mapping it. They are providing this data to municipalities, festivals, events, and at the same time they are selling it, and they are teaching these soft skills that they learn through our program to these craftspeople, so they can do it themselves, you know, which is interesting. So it's a little bit more of a smaller, I would say. It's not something scalable and sexy as a startup, you know. They will always have growing pains. But they found a viable solution to actually not operate only in Porto and to impact other districts and scale up to Portugal, probably. Yeah,
that's quite nice as an experience, and we can say art and creativity is inside a vision of territoire, for an example. And art and creativity as a vision of territorial development is also at the core of the program.
Indeed.
Malika, maybe you want to illustrate it or to give some insights?
I don't have enough precise examples because I haven't been in the university long enough, but of course I've heard of success stories and a junior enterprise that became startup. And what is interesting is that in our region, in southern France, you have every step of the entrepreneurship journey that is covered. So we talked about being an entrepreneur when you are a student, so that is covered by university, by programs like PEPIT, by what we are doing in Min4CI. And you have programs that follow up when the students leave the university and wants to take I mean, it's their business. So when they want to establish it officially, they are also like they have support. And when there is a scale up. So for example, in the southern region, we have La CISAM, which is the office for innovation, innovation in Aix-Marseille, and you have like very different scales of startups, businesses that are supported. And I think that's interesting because also it creates, you know, an ambition for young entrepreneurs to see what you can achieve. You know, it's not only, and also because it has diversity of legal status. It's not sexy, but you know, when you create an association as a student, it's not the same when you create an individual business or a business that employs people. So I think we're quite covered in the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, and I would add to this topic that what is interesting too is now we, in our 3 universities, for example, we share this example of places where we can put together the students, the companies, and the incubation process, and they are all share the same spaces. It's the case for the Villa Creative in Avignon, for example, the CISAM, as you said. It is the case in the campus Georges Méliès in Cannes. And what happened there is that we have at the basic is really a narrative from the territorial institutions. I mean, we want to put in the same place the students, the companies, the startups, the technological platforms, and let's see what happens. Okay, and if it is going somewhere, and in fact it is going somewhere. So the students are in contact with the companies. They can have an internship very easily. So they are training more efficiently, and after that, the companies are really interesting. They come to us and they say, okay, I got a problem to solve, so I got a new challenge. I want to launch a new channel, for an example, or I need creative for my TV program. So how are we doing that? And then we can afford solutions, and we can empower and developing something. And this increase the possibility of a territoire. Why it is increasing it? Because we are dealing with all the different steps of the value chain. And if we are in the different steps of the value chain, the companies, they will set near the place because they know they will have internships and people trained to work with them very fast. So it's one of the possibilities we are trying to achieve at this phase. And maybe we can have a link between these initiatives also to demonstrate the power of this way we are imagine the link between the institutions, the startup, the partnership, and larger cooperation. And we can witness maybe some of the excerpts.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this since the inception of UPTEC because, well, it's why we were created, you know. So the University of Porto has published a lot of papers, it has done a lot of research, developed a lot of products. But when it came to reach the society, to reach the market, it's where things fall a little bit short. So UPTEC was created with this goal to be an interface between market, society, and the university, and that's what we've been trying to do. So we created this kind of other interfaces that we managed to always address these kinds of possibilities where we bring students to develop solutions for companies. We created a student council to bring students closer and faculties closer to what we are doing at UPTEC. But it always falls short in one sense to me, which is the fine arts faculty and the architecture faculty always were underrepresented. You know, it's just kind of part of how these crowds think, you know. In general, engineers, scientists, and people from the economics faculty are a little bit more prone to be entrepreneurs. Not that artists are not entrepreneurs, they're just not aware of it, you know. So Lately, we've been trying to create other types of interfaces where these artists and these students from other faculties feel more welcome and find it more compelling to take a part on it, you know. So we created a joint initiative that we call it XPO, where we ask students to create exhibitions in our facilities, so people start looking into art and trying to find new meanings on the way they work, mostly startups. We ask startups to promote tech workshops for students and for artists that we are incubating. And we asked the artists that we are incubating to teach engineers how to communicate better in general, you know, which they do need a lot. And we're still trying to gather the results. We're still casting the seeds to see what grows out of this. Yeah, I mean, we have the experience of the other initiatives that are similar to this one that did render really positive results. We have this huge opportunity to bring artists closer to what is entrepreneurship, and in general, trying to convey this idea that even if they choose the career of, I'm just going to be an artist and do something that's, and excuse me for saying this, but useless, you know, it's just for my own pleasure and for the pleasure who wants to appreciate what I'm doing, which is completely okay, and it's a viable solution for your career. There's still a career part of it that you need to understand, and there's still some soft skills that you need to get. So trying to convey these ideas, that what we've been finding more important and what we've been working on. You know.
But this is why narratives are important, and what we said, but things being tools and not the outputs. Yeah. Because I was always surprised. I think we have to make maybe a collective effort to be more precise with our words and with our works sometimes. Because I was always surprised when I was a student that you have a track for entrepreneurs. That doesn't mean anything like this, because entrepreneurship is a form of action. It's not an action in itself. Yeah. So when you just let it like this, of course people will create a reality out of nothing. So little by little, it will be taken by people majoring in economics or finances or engineering, and left by people that are in creative, arts fields. And then it becomes a synonym. You know, when you hear entrepreneurship, it means getting the big bucks for like an idea, a weird idea. And I think this is kind of the effort that we collectively have to make in explaining the types of action, the possibilities you have. And for example, in my personal case, I have the same issues with the term cultural industries. I will, in Aix-Marseille University, I'll also teach a class called Cultural Industries. And sometimes it's funny, you are with people, an ecosystem of the city, of all the members of the culture and creativity and arts world, so theaters, performance people, music, audiovisual, you name it, and you ask them, do you think you are part of the cultural industries? They say no, and there is two people raising their hands, and you're like, okay, we can refute the words, we can have a discussion about the words, that is a semantic and a scientific discussion, but understand that what you said, there is opportunities, and now the funds will be called call for proposals in cultural industries. Understand that you are a target if you want, and if you want to take this chance, it's yours. And if you doesn't want, it's okay, and you have a different path. But I think it's really about the words that create the narratives, so we can all agree on this, and we can see better also, like in which direction we are leaning, and if we want to pursue this path or not.
Oh, I completely agree with that, and that's something that we've been trying to do. I do it more in a performative way with the students that I've been working with, where I bring my director with me, and well, she's an amazing person and she's really inspiring, but she's somebody who thinks on a startup way, you know? So when she starts talking with people from the fine arts faculty, usually the narrative is a little bit, so we've been supporting 200 startups, we have this much turnover, a lot of investment, yada, 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 you know, and in general, I can see the face of the students just they get really scared about this is going to be my class from this next semester is going to be all about this. And then I come up and then I try to make things a little bit smoother. Yeah, and I just say, so you probably know about this artist Vils, you know about this designer that you really like, this studio that you've been following. There's one thing in common with all of them, which is they need to pay bills. You know, this is a really simple idea that you need to get is we're trying just to get you the tools so you can pay your own bills, whatever you need to do, whatever you decide to do, you know. So you don't need to be scared about what Maria said, because what she's saying is true, but it doesn't need to be your path. It can be a different path, and it's not conflicting with this idea of entrepreneurship, you know. You need to understand the rules of the game and understand how to play it to your benefit, you know. And this is kind of the performance that I put up for them, like kind of a simple show where they get really shocked and then they get, okay, so this is going to be a little bit easier than I was thinking, and okay, I can buy this idea, not the first one. But they are the same idea, you know. It's just about the narratives that we are creating to teach them. And when you were speaking, I was thinking about this initiative that we are not doing this, but we are just hosting them. We provide the space for them to do, which is the Cine Club for little kids. So we have a small class. It's not a class, it's an informal thing run by the Cine Club do Porto, where they give a budget to a group of 12-year-old girls and 8-year-old girls, where they need to contact distributors to watch movies, you know, but they need to manage their own budget. And we're talking about little kids, and we just provide them space with an internet connection where they can send emails, ask for movies, and in the end watch them together. And this is something so simple, but they are already trying to understand how a budget works, how they need to do, and how to manage their own initiative. And we're talking about 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, something in between, you know. And these simple things are really important. For me to having kids around, it's always good because whenever people engage with them, it's always disruptive somehow. But to host this kind of initiatives where they just understand how entrepreneurship works without putting the weight of the word into them, you know, on top of them is important.
I agree with both of you. And what I see also is that when we have this kind of seminar, arts entrepreneurship, for example, the students are very often struck by the fact that in the end we don't really speak about business or things like that. In the end we are speaking about themselves. So they are at the core of the project, and they have to understand that they have to develop their own project first to speak about themselves, to speak about what they want to create, what they want to achieve, and the way their creativity have to be expressed, and this is the first work of the task and of the seminar, and they are very often very nicely surprised by this, and they consider after that the entrepreneurship and the enterprise in a totally different way, because it's far from what they imagine at the first step. And what is interesting in your both testimony about this kind of experiences also is that we have in both cases ecosystems of actions, of tools to help the students to scale up and to accelerate the project, and a kind of environment to do so in our institutions. And this kind of environment is also possible with the support of local authority. Is this the case, I imagine, for you, André?
Yeah, we've been doing these types of programs, not only in Porto from the university, but we also bring our programs to other municipalities to address specific challenges that they have. So in general, I believe that entrepreneurship is always a good solution for any problem. You know, it's about transferring ownership to people who are probably interested parties and possible stakeholders in these problems, you know. So having this idea of empathy, such as this, it's really important. It's something that we try to convey. So even when we bring this to other municipalities, such as Famalicão, Matosinhos, in northern Portugal, we always try to bring this kind of mindset of it's important that people take ownership of what they're doing. And entrepreneurship is always about this and about finding these solutions in empathic ways, you know. So yeah, and definitely local governments are not only important to provide these solutions, but also because they are, in my opinion, more aware of what are the challenges that each region is going through and what are the paths coming. Even maybe they don't know what is the path, but they know exactly what's the problem that they need to address, you know. Even if it's just in terms of community, what they need to do. Famalicão, for instance, in northern Portugal, has a disenfranchised community of Roma people who are not just part of society there. So what they have been doing is supporting artists to build their own studios and workshops within this community and trying to teach artistic expressions to these people. And it has been incredible how from just learning how to do music, to do production, to paint, and something really simple, they start to have self-worth, which is essential, and then a different meaning on how to approach things and how to develop things. So there's people who are now becoming active part of society thanks to these kinds of efforts. And we need to consider how much it costs, and this is the intangible part, that it's very tangible, but usually we left out of these narratives that every time that we make somebody disenfranchised, an active member of our society, we are saving money from the state in some place that is now becoming into profit, kind of by tax or something else, you know. And the simple math that we can do is that in Portugal, somebody that's incarcerated costs 20,000 euros per year to the state. You know, if we turn this person into an active person, we are cutting the costs in 20,000 euros, and we are making a profit, kind of, or at least we are generating revenue through tax money, you know. So these kinds of efforts are really important, and I believe that this is where municipalities should be more aware and should have impact assessments ready to deploy to understand this better.
Exactly, and it's a nice narrative.
Join our STG.
Well, I'm in.
And to add to that fact, we had a survey in our region, for example, to add a measurement of the socio-economic impact of the activities of the university. It is a public report. It's called the report Bajar. And it's counted in billion of euros. I mean, the impact of the activity of our joint universities is for all the region. You can count it in billion of euros, the way it is driven socio-economical actions and economical activities into the territories. Because of course, the employment of people, the services, but also all the activities that generates the startups, the enterprises, and that are disseminating into all the territory, and it is huge, really. And as you said, it's justifying totally the budget of our universities in terms of indirect feedback. Exactly. And indirect output of the activity. Yeah,
it's important to just consider these new KPIs. Return on investment is important,
exactly.
We need to find new ones that actually match what we are doing in our sector.
Yeah, we are very proud of that. We have our feet well set in our shoes.
I'm glad that you are doing it.
So I think we are. It's a trick because it was 5 minutes, just 10 seconds ago. So it's a signal that we are nearly at the end of our session. So thank you very much, Malika and André. It was very inspiring.
Maybe one last word, because we talked about effect and impact in an economical way, and also in the fact that you create your own career. I think it's important to think about empowerment and sustainable empowerment, which means when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have equal access. Diversity and inclusion are very important. Who has access to these tools? And when you are an entrepreneur, it doesn't. Sometimes we are still in a paradigm when becoming an entrepreneur is a way to not getting legal contract, you know, to have like a very precarious contract, and I think this is the effort also we have to make to grant equal access to entrepreneurship, and that it has to be sustainable for whoever has great ideas, and I think a lot of us...
Maybe we should have a really unsexy idea, which is money for failing, you know?
Yeah.
So people have equal opportunity. Sometimes it's not the money to start up, is what happens if I fail, you know, and we should consider these types of consequences.
Sometimes you cannot take the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
So you should grant this access. Yeah,
yeah, I agree.
So
And also the mission to have this vision of the social empowerment. I mean, the gender and the equality, and to make sure that all the students can access to this program, these tools, the tools we are building all together, and because there is also the preparation of the next generation and the future generation we have, and we have this responsibility too, I think. So no problems really, but only solutions. That could be our motto. And thank you very much again for this invitation and for this organization. And so happy evening, everyone.
Thank you.
thank you.